Oila of Reish Chodesh, the Oila of Reish Chodesh versus the Oila of Oilas Hatamid, the daily carbon Oila. That we were saying that the Oila of Reish Chodesh, every single Reish Chodesh, even though the carbonas were identical, still in all, that did not extend to their inner meaning. The kavana, since their main thing is the inner kavana, the intention is what's important by a carbon. So that meaning of the carbon was different for each month according to the different combinations of the name Yud Kei Vav Kei and different letters of the name Adnai, every month showing something else. This is similar, we said, to what's brought down by the carbonas of the Nesiim. Nesiim that also are, we said, correspond to the 12 months, the 12 Shvatim correspond to the 12 months. So each Nasi, even though they brought an identical carbon to everyone else, but their intention was a different type of intention. And this intention, we said, actually manifests itself in the different seasons, in the hashpahs of the carbonas of the Reish Chodesh. Every 2 seasons, every 2 months is a different season. This has to do with the elevation of the carbonas and the intention and what's being accomplished through the carbonas. And then, as opposed to that, we said the oilas tamid, the tamid carbon, the daily carbon, that is like a general level that includes all the levels. So there's a level of every month is specific and detailed and divided, each one according to its own kavanah, its own amshach. When it comes to the tamid, that is the general, all-inclusive level. That's a level that is beyond the divisions of the 12 months. And that's why it's also written in that order in the Torah. First, the oilas tamid, because that's the general level. Then it breaks down to specifics in the oilas tamid of the oilas Reish Chodesh every single month. This is similar, I believe we mentioned this already, concerning Rosh Hashanah versus the Rosh Chodeshim. That the Rosh Hashanah includes in it all the 12 heads of month, and it includes the whole chayes of the whole year, and then that comes down in every head of month, in every Rosh Chodesh for its month. And we brought an example of this from the idea of Torah and mitzvahs, that in mitzvahs there's the specific 613 mitzvahs. Then there's the way the 613 mitzvahs are part of the Aseret HaDibros. Then there's the way all of that is included, all the mitzvahs are included in the 2 dibros of Anoichi and Layilacha. Anoichi is all the 248 mitzvahs. The Layilacha includes all the 365 lois aseh. And then you have the way it's all included in the word Anoichi, that's beyond all types of division, beyond all types of ischalkos. It's Anoichi, Misha Anoichi, it's Hashem's very essential being that cannot be described by any type of name. That's even beyond the idea of the difference between Klal and Prat. So that association, that comparison is actually going to be very important for the next piece. That we're saying that Oilas Tamid versus the Rosh Chodesh Korbanos is in a way of a klal prat, which reflects how Torah and mitzvahs are, that there's the pratim of the mitzvahs, and then there's the whole klal, the way it's all included in the Aseret HaDibros, up to how it's all included in the Anoichi, will help us understand a very interesting thing in our parsha when it starts talking about the Oilas Tamid, like he's about to say. Ois Hey, line 25 on the 4th page of the copies. Sign by the Torah, and the Torah of the Mizritcher Magid, he concludes, "V'zeu oilas tamid ha'asuya b'Har Sinai." This is what it says, the oilas tamid that's made on Har Sinai. When we learn the Chumash, when we learn the pasuk in Chumash, it's very strange. Why does he say about the oilas tamid ha'asuya b'Har Sinai? The question is, when in Har Sinai was this done? And what's the significance? Then when we talk about the Talmud that was brought in the morning, the Talmud that was brought in the evening, what does it have to do with the Talmud that was brought in Har Sinai? Rashi brings over there 2 Pirushim. It means that they brought before they were Matan Torah, when they were at Har Sinai, or it was the Yemei HaMiluyim, when they were inaugurating and training for the Mishkan. But it's a very strange thing that he needs to point. It's Hasuya B'Har Sinai. But based on the association and the comparison that we just now made, that just like Anoichi is the general thing, and the Aseres HaDibros is the general thing that includes all the other parts of the mitzvahs that are the 613. So to the Olas Tamid is a general thing that includes all the details that afterwards come out. In every single Rosh Chodesh, it's unique Hamshacha, so it's going to be understood, this comparison to Asuya Bahar Sinai. Line 26, the idea behind this is, like the Tzemach Tzedek explains, Shalos Ma'im Nukvin the Tamid, Shu Klali, this elevation of the feminine waters. In other words, the Sarusa, the Lasata, that takes place in the carbon Tamid, that is constant. That's still a general level. It's still the carbon. It's the idea of a general concept. So where does that general level in the person's halah, oilas tamid, the constant halah that's all inclusive and all general? So where does this come about? We always say that every Yisrusal Sata from us needs to have the Isarusa de la Ela from above. So for our general all-inclusive level, to be able to have that ascent and Yisrusal Sata in a general way of the Oilas Tamid, it's Asuya Bahar Sinai. We got it. It was made by Har Sinai when the general level came down. Nimshach Haide Dibur Anoichi Bahar Sinai. That comes down through the statement of Anoichi and Har Sinai. V'zeu Asuya Bahar Sinai Shesham Heir Bechina Shalomayla Mischalkos. That's where it says that it's shown that the one that was made in Har Sinai, because over there Har Sinai, it's shown the level beyond the vision. And that empowered us to be able to do the avodah of ascending in the encompassing level, in the level that's beyond the vision. There's a very interesting footnote. Let's learn it inside. Footnote number 25. He says, he brings from the Oira Torah, and he says, V'sham, over there in the Oira Torah, it says, Shebematan Torah hayeroinus hanishma. We know that there was a miracle, Matan Torah, that we saw what was heard, and we heard what was seen. So he explains, this is similar to the division of the 12 months, the 12 Shvatim, which we said correspond to the 12 months. The 12 Nesiim also correspond to the 12 months. So he says like this. The division between sight and hearing is like the division of the 12 Shvatim. We know Reuven is the idea of seeing, that's a Reuven. V'Shimon in Yanishmiya, Shimon is the idea, Kisham Hashem Bekoili, it's the idea of hearing. So, there are times when the Shvatim are divided. There are times when the months are divided, but not by Matan Torah. V'kivin sheba Matan Torah, heir bechina hakelelus kulam, since in Matan Torah they're shown a level that's all-inclusive, like the Anoichi and the Aseres HaDibros that includes all the Tayag mitzvahs. L'chein, loy, the note continues the next page, loy hoisa is chalkas b'nei l'shmiya. That's why there was no division between seeing and hearing, and that's why they would see what was normally heard, and they would hear what was normally seen, because all this whole entire encompassing level. Okay, back to the text on the previous page, the last three words on the page. So he said that over there by Har Sinai, it's shown this level that's beyond the vision. In a similar vein, top of page test, Tamid, concerning the carbon Tamid, who Allah Asmaim Nukvin Kloli, it's a general elevation of the feminine waters, a general Isrus Sata, which is a carbon, is about a carbon oila, especially, it's about rising up. But that rising up is a koilol kol prate abchinas shnei masach rosh chodashim. It includes all the specific levels of the 12 heads of months. Now, the Rebbe points out that Rosh Chodesh is also called Rosh, just like Rosh Hashanah is called Rosh. Because the Rosh Chodesh, even though it's considered detailed, but in regards to that particular month, it's a general level. Let's see it inside. Line 3. To note, that every one of the specific levels of the 12 heads of month, it's considered, it is a general thing concerning all the days of the month. That's why it's called the head of the month, not the beginning of the month. Because like a head that includes all the life, life force, vitality, and energy of all the days of the months. Like it's explained at length. In the middle of Rebbe's a sefer called Ateres Roish that explains this idea about Rosh and the Rosh Chodeshim, that reason why it's called Roish, because it includes all the Chayes. So the Rebbe is going to say, so what is it? Is it a klal, because it includes all the days and all the Chayes of the rest of the month? Or is it a prat, is it a detail of the general Chayes of the Karban Tamid? So the Rebbe right away explains at the end of line 7, the fact that we're calling Rosh Chodesh a detail, this is only concerning the greater general level, the greater klal. In other words, there's a klal and there's a super klal. Okay, klal stam, there's an ordinary klal, the klal gadol, and then there's a great klal. It's similar to what we have in the Rashi, from the Gemara, what Rabbi Akiva says. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, Amar Rabbi Akiva, ze klal gadol b'Torah. And the Rebbe explains the Sichos what is Rashi trying to emphasize by saying and quoting this word Rabbi Akiva, that's klal gadol. So we see there are things that are just a klal in the Torah, and then there's a klal gadol. So the same thing, every Rosh Chodesh is a klal in regards to the days of its month, but it's a prat in the klal gadol of the karbanos of the Tamid Karban. And in the similar vein, different levels of klal we're going to find, we said already concerning Torah. He says in line 10, similar to what was explained previously yesterday, we spoke about it, concerning the general Torah. So then there's the way the Aseres HaDibros is a klal for all the Taryag mitzvahs. But if you speak about the Aseres HaDibros in comparison to Anoichi v'lo, so the Anoichi and lo yelecha is not a klal legaba that. It's I'm sorry. The Anoichi lo yelecha makes the Aseres HaDibros a prat legaba it, and then Anoichi lo yelecha in comparison to Anoichi is only a prat, even though it's a klal for the other things. Until when we get to the super klal of Anoichi, the klal gadol that was said of Anoichi, that was said on Har Sinai, the lo ispas, that was said on Har Sinai, hasuya bar Sinai. That's the emphasis. Oilas Tamiid hasuya bar Sinai wants to give you the comparison to the klal that took place at Har Sinai, all the way up to the utmost highest level of klal, the klal of Anoichi, not just the klal of Aseres HaDibros, not just the klal of the two dibros Anoichi lo yelecha, but the ultimate klal of Anoichi. Since it's a level that was not grasped by any name and wasn't hinted by any letter and point of a letter whatsoever, it is beyond any combination of letters whatsoever, not like the Rosh Chodeshim, that the Rosh Chodeshim are the different combinations of Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. Anoichi but is not a name of Hashem. It is an indication of a letter that's beyond, of a level that's beyond any name. So therefore, all the different names are like that. We're saying that every month is a different combination of the letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei. That is completely a prat, and even less than a prat, like we said before. It doesn't even fall into the Anoich doesn't even fall into the entire category of klal and prat, because it's way beyond that. So now, what does this mean? This is all fine and good in the Kabbalah and the inner meaning of what goes on the Oila of Rish Chodesh and the Oila of every day. But as everything, the Rebbe is always focused in these Mamorim. What's the practical? What does this have to do with my avodah? So he says in Vav line 16, the idea behind this in the service of a person. The general idea of karbonis is a very elevated and high level. And to such a degree that it says in Kabbalah Shiraza, the Korban Oila, the Raza Dein Sof, the mystery and the secrets of the karbonis, the inner meaning of the karbonis, that is something that goes up all the way to the inner level, to the secret most level of the Ein Sof. So we see how high the karbonis reach. So now, what does that mean in our service to Hashem? With this is also understood the great idea of the karbonis in a person's service in his soul. If since we know that the inner service of a person corresponds to the outer service, and if a carbon is so lofty, so we understand that my inner service that's supposed to correspond to that must also be way above and beyond. So what does that mean? That's what it says about the karbonis right away at the beginning of Chumash Vayikra. It says a person that will offer from you. And there's the classic question throughout many Mamar Chassidus. It asks, it should say Adam Mikem Ki Yakriv. It should say a person from amongst you Klal Yisrael. If a person amongst you wants to bring a carbon, so this and this is how it's done. It doesn't say that. It places the Mikem after the Ki Yakriv, meaning that a person that wants to offer a carbon or come close from you. What does it mean that you're coming close from you, you're bringing something close from you, you're offering a carbon from you? So he says in line 21, Hainu, this means she'inyan hakarbanis sarach liyas ba'ofen she'yachder durchnemen es ha'adam she'yakliv es ha'atzmai. The idea of karbanis, including the way it was the physical karbanis, has to be in such a way that it should permeate the person, that he should sacrifice himself. So that, in other words, when the person is bringing the carbon in the Beis HaMikdash, it should be an experience that he's really bringing it from himself. He's not just bringing the animal. So it's understood as well that even when we don't have the karbanis in the Beis HaMikdash, it's also about that offering up myself, Yakriv Mikem. So he says in line 23, what does it mean that the person is offering himself? Where is it recognizable? Where is it seen that the person is offering himself? That is when a person has the avodah of accepting the yoke of heaven and he's self-sacrificing. So that is something where he's offering himself. This idea of offering himself, this is going to connect with the idea that we spoke about, the Oilas Tamid being a klal. Because when you deal with that core type of devotion to Hashem, that supersedes all types of divisions. In this level, there are no changes, no differences, no distinctions. It's beyond time and place. Time and place do not play any role in the person's essential Kabbalah soil and self-sacrifice. And the divisions of Prat and Klal don't apply over there, just like we said by Anoichi, that the divisions of Prat and Klal don't even apply, and just like the general idea of the Oilas Tamid, which is all-inclusive, and Tamid, it's constant, just like this thing is without changes. It's Tamid, it's constant. So we don't stop by Oilas Tamid. We're trying to learn not just from the part of the Oilas Tamid, but also the Oilas Rish Chodesh. That the Oilas Rish Chodesh was different. Why do we have also the Oilas Rish Chodesh? Isn't this mysterious nefesh, beyond everything, beyond limitations, beyond distinction? Isn't that the greatest thing? So he says, Amnam inyan zeh, tzarich lahamshich ba'ifin sheyachter b'chol protei hakoyach sapnimiyim. This has to be drawn down, and this in such a way that it should permeate all of his specific inner powers. That's why, after you have the Oilas Tamid, he tells us right away, there has to be the Oilas Rish Chodesh. Everything has to have its own specific level in which it comes into. How does that come about in our avodah? So once we have the Mesiris Nefesh and Kabbalah's oil of the beginning of the day of Moida Ani, now we translate that and bring it into the details. And that's in the further aspect of the other part, which is like a carbon, which is Shacharis davening or davening in general. The Indians have now said they coil protein yon the Seder Tefillah, this of that the Kabbalah, Soil Mesiris Nefesh, should permeate all the specific inner soul powers, happens through the specific aspects of the order of davening. Hacham Psuki de Zimra, beginning from the songs and verses of praise, ad the Kriya Shema, till we reach Kriya Shema as one step, last page in the Maimer, Hein Parsha, the Shaina, whether we're talking about the first Parsha of Kriya Shema, Shinyon, Inyana Av, the main aspect of the first Parsha of Kriya Shema is love. Like it says, you should love Hashem to such a degree that even it's with all your might. And we know that it's brought down, the Zohar says, the less there's no service like the service of love. So therefore, it's like the most gewaldige type of avodah that's distinct and unique and different than other thing. So that's the avodah of love. V'hein Parsha Shniya, whether we're talking about the second Parsha of Krishma, that in many places the Chassidus speaks about it, the second Parsha of Krishma, that's about the avodah of Yira. It says, if you will not listen, this and this will happen. That's about evoking in a person a fear, etc., etc. So you have two distinct avodas. So you have different avodas. You have praising Hashem, you have the avodah of love and the avodah of Yira. Va'ad l'shmayna esra, until he reaches a state of shmayna esra, which is another state of bittul and so on. Ulachrit ze oimrim eilecha avaya nafshi esa shu inyan hamesiris nefesh. Then we say to you, Hashem, I raise up my soul. That's the idea of self-sacrifice. Let's quickly learn through to see how this is a self-sacrifice, like different than, let's say, Shemana Esra or the original self-sacrifice. Let's quickly go to the commentary on the right side of the column that says in line 9 over there of the commentary. Like it's brought down the Torah of the Tzemach Tzedek. That there is different descriptions of you shall follow Hashem, you shall fear Him, and one of the things it says, and you shall cleave in Him. Pirush, so the Tzemach Tzedek explains, this level post Shemoneh Esrei by Nefilas Apayim, by Tachnun, is even a higher level than Shemoneh Esrei. V'husoid in Nefilas Apayim sho'imrim elech havai nafshi esa. When it says uboisid bakun, it is the inner meaning of the falling on the face, the Nefilas Apayim, by we say in that thing, I will raise up my soul to you. So what is it? This is the actual Mesiris Nefesh. It's really, truly raising up to become part of the oneness of Hashem, but Mesiris Nefesh Gomer in a total self-sacrifice. It's the coming part of Knesset Yisrael in their source where they're hewn out from. In an ultimate unity and oneness, until they're considered like one entity, one body with Hashem. Like for example, when you stick two separate things together with devik, shekar and clay, that we called clay, in other words glue. The benefit of this cleaving, that they cleave them together, they should be considered completely as one entity. Should not be divided and recognized as two separate bodies and entities. This is a physical metaphor to understand above. That when he falls on his face, that shows that he loses himself entirely. By Shemoneh Esrei, he's still standing upright. Falling on their face, especially the times that are Shas, they used to completely fall on the floor. That shows an utter bittul, even beyond, and Mesiris Nefesh higher than Shemoneh Esrei. Let's go back into the text. Line 6 in the center. More specifically, when we talk about the Mesiris Nefesh, these are the two davenings that correspond to the Tamid, Olas Tamid. Tefillah Shachar is connected to Shal Shachar, the morning davening corresponding to the morning Tamid. Or Tefillah Mincha connected to Be'er Abayim, and Mincha corresponds to the afternoon Tamid. Va'ad, this that we're bringing down the Mesiras Nefesh into all the details of the Koiches Pnimiyim, it also impacts and manifests in the person's own physical needs. Until it comes down all the needs of a person that were mentioned in davening, because the core part of davening is it's about requesting one's person's needs. In yonim gashmi, in physical needs. Close and not feel that's a general idea of davening. It's a ladder standing on the ground, and its top is reaching to the heavens. Through that ladder of davening, becomes the ascent from below to above. Following that ascent, it becomes the drawing down from above to below. To do what? To make Hashem come down here. Make a home for Hashem down here below. In this low world, that there's no world lower than it. Like it'll be revealed, will be fulfilled the promise for all flesh will see together that the mouth of Hashem spoke. The bias Mashiach Tzidkenu b'karav mamish, and the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu soon mamish.